record just in case because I think it's going to let us go. I have a feeling.
Yeah, it says it's being live streamed
You
now.
want to record it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, because that way you can post it on yours too. Let me see. I'll just figure that out. Participants, host. Oh, you got it. Okay, you got it. Awesome. You're good at that. Hey, guys, are we live? Yeah, I think we're live on YouTube. Yeah. Hey, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. I'm really excited about my guest today. Every time, like I just posted a short with Ellen on Instagram, and it got like over 3,000 views. So people like what she has to say. You know, so I have with me Ellen King, and she's going to be getting into the dark side of alchemy today. I titled it Saturn AI Alchemy, Hidden Knowledge, the Dark Side of the Occult with Ellen King, or Weird, Wild, and Woo, the Darker Side of Alchemy. Ellen King is the creator of Error My Ways YouTube channel and longtime independent researcher of esoteric knowledge. This goes back to a show that I first started from like that got me into wanting to do my podcast a long time ago, which is I saw Ellen on Leak Project, and I was watching Leak Project back in 2017, 2018, and I think, but I saw Ellen back in like 2020 or 2021 or 2022, so I can't remember exactly. And I thought, well, I was like, wow, she'd be an interesting guest. And then she started doing shows, and I think she's been on my show like 5 times now or something like that. So, and she always brings like top-notch information. So she's known for her deep dives into subjects overlooked by mainstream discussions. Ellen explores the intersections between ancient wisdom, modern technology, symbolism, Saturnian themes, artificial intelligence, sacred geometry, alchemy, zodiac archetypes, and the unseen forces that may shape human perception and reality. Through her work at ellensart.com, wellandbe.com, and her YouTube channel, Arrow of My Ways, Ellen encourages people to question assumptions, explore deeper meanings, and investigate both the light and shadow aspects of spiritual and esoteric traditions. And with all that said, I'd like to give her a big warm welcome back to the show. Ellen, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
Hey, thank you so much, Rob, for that amazing introduction. I don't even know how you fit all of that in one sentence.
It's good to see you. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. So I actually quit my job. I'm so excited. I quit the film industry. Realized, that we have to have some sort of moral code within us. And for myself, it's not about the money. I was on a Disney production, and I can no longer serve the dark in that manner. So that's all I'm going to say. I mean, that I do not see darkness on a daily basis in the regards that is coming out, in the truth stream media. But to know that these things are ongoing and people are acting like nothing is happening, that's kind of disturbing, honestly. So I had to take it upon myself, and I told my boss, I said, "Look, I'm not coming back." And they were like, "Really?" I was like, "No, I'm not coming back." And a lot of people are disappointed, but I can't stay in that arena.
Were you seeing things that like you didn't really that were making you like that were kind of making you like yeah, I'm guessing you saw some stuff or
Well, here's what I see that most people don't, and people behind, like people, like in front of the camera and behind the camera, people don't necessarily see the things that I see with my esoteric eyes. Like, for example, I shouldn't disclose the show that I was just on, but there was behind the scenes, there was a debate over naming a particular set. And the name was very offensive and very like jaw dropping and eye opening. And they renamed the set because they figured, I guess, that wasn't appropriate to call it what they were calling it. And so it was just one of those things that I was like, you know what? I'm shaking my head because obviously the writers of the show, whether they're told what they should write about or they come up with their content, someone in these arenas, these circles, is connected to some sort of occult order, is all I have to say. Because you just don't make up the things that I've seen, the esotericism that is used as subliminal messaging inside Hollywood. I see it now. My friend showed me images from a show that he had worked on where he was working on a set and he was carving it out. It was one of the major Marvel productions. The entire set was one big occult symbol that I could recognize. He did not recognize it because he does not speak symbolic language. He does not read it or understand it. But these are the things that I see. And
And let me just say, when you see stuff like that, it's not just that it's like Freemasonry or something. It's usually maybe something deeper, that there might be some like sacrificial things going on, or human trafficking, or something very devious going on behind the scenes that like people don't really recognize. But is that what I'm guessing, or maybe?
so, yeah, I mean, essentially, our our thoughts and our minds begin to co-create reality with everything around us. The shapes, geometric shapes, colors, lights, darks, all of these things are actually power of creation. And people have not really brought that fully into 100% awareness yet. That sigil magic exists everywhere, all around us in symbolic language. And it's affecting us. All of these mass chaos of geometric shapes are actually affecting our energy fields as we pass near them and through them on a daily basis. That means even our household objects. So I see. Are you about to ask a question? Look like
No, I'm just thinking. You really got me. You already got me. You got me going. Like the other day when we were on the phone, you really got me thinking about a lot of different stuff, because like you go down a lot of different roads. Like, and you tie this into health, and like like just like what you told me about like Himalayan pink salt, that you said that
yes.
it's from the bodies of giants. I was like, what? I was like, that is like deep, but I was like, that's so interesting. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like that was like so interesting.
Well, I don't know if you guys follow Roger Spur and his information that he's putting out there for his what is it called? It's Mud Fossil University channel. He has been speaking for years now about how the biology around us is living biology of the past, of giant entities like dragons and snakes, and there's elephants, there's, just a world full of enormous beings. And they're all around us. And effectively, all of the salts, nothing ever leaves in this existence. No, the water does not leave, the soil doesn't leave, the crystalline structures, which are salts, do not leave. All it does is change form. And diving into alchemy has been one of the greatest journeys I think anyone could ever start to imagine and explore. If you dive into alchemy and what the old alchemists had to say, you will begin a journey inward and outward and know the truth of all things. And I believe in my heart of hearts, we are dealing with fallen angels using inversions of alchemy against us in every way imaginable. And that this began, you can start to kind of correlate this with the zodiac and the symbolic language that it speaks. Now, time does not exist. And apparently, though, what we perceive is like a resonance. Like we're just perceiving this dense reality through a lens that we can only comprehend when it's really something magnanimously unexplainable. And they say time does not really exist, and but all things exist within time. So it can be very confounding and confuddling. And what it can actually mean is that all the timelines are here right now, all of them. That means Egypt, that means Alexandria, that means all of these different.
Atlantis, you mean, maybe Tataria, stuff like that too?
So I've heard that they're basically like pages of a book and they're overlapping each other in different frequency bands.
Whoa, that's
And
deep.
yes,
And is that why we're seeing Mandela effects? Because
yes,
timelines are merging? That's kind of
they're
what thought.
we're altering timelines. Now we can alter time with our minds. I have seen this physically in my own existence. And I,
Holy shit! I gotta show. So, I'm so sorry. I
no,
hate when I interrupt
please,
people, but I gotta tell you this. So
yeah,
last night I couldn't sleep, which I think you know. Well, I was going through some stuff, and then it was like 2 in the morning, and I turned on Sandy Diva Mandela Effects. I don't know if you watch her, but she's pretty good. Like she came on my show before, and then she has her own show or whatever, and you're gonna love this. This is hilarious. Like, but it's so interesting. So she's always looking for Mandela effects and she's always looking for residue, and what she calls as residue is the evidence of the Mandela effects, right? So
oh yeah,
you're never going to guess what they found. And a
what?
big shout out to Sandy, and I might even clip this because she found an episode of Who's the Boss from 1991 with Ed McMahon walking up to the door with a check. Like,
Really?
whereas everybody's trying to say that that never existed, that Egg McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse, that that's a falsity in our heads, that nobody,
What?
and she found evidence of it. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, and who can explain it really, right?
I know, right?
But
Because I remember it that way. I remember seeing commercials for it. Like I don't know if but that was definitely in my timeline.
yes, yes. I mean, I've seen that, you know, and I actually have the book from the Berenstein Bears, and it changed. The name is changed.
Wow.
And the interview with the vampire, that name changed. And some other things that I've seen personally in my own life have changed. Now, let me just give you a little incident that happened to me. And this is from a firsthand account of my own experience. My aunt and uncle, my aunt, first of all, was like an interior decorator and she had really nice things in her house and she passed away. And so my brother and I were visiting my uncle. And he had something that my aunt had purchased. It was a topper to a lamp shade that was made of amethyst and brass. And it was interesting because the amethyst was cut in a geodesic dome type of shape, which is not something that you normally see, but it was a real amethyst. You could tell by the weight. And my brother noticed how it resembled the key to the time machine in that movie, The Time Machine. And he goes, "Oh, that looks like the key to the time machine in that movie." And my uncle, being the character that he was like, "It is. It's the key to the time machine." And I said, "Oh, let me see the key to the time machine." Okay. Now, what we have not yet realized is that the power of three is what is necessary to manifest things into our world. And this is in old magical practice, and you get into, the gematria, like all of the numerology and things of that nature. Anyhow, I did not know this at the time, but we just created a magic spell. And we put our consciousness into an object. And it was two males and a female, which is what the magical practice actually requires, because you have Isis, Ra, and El. Isis being the moon, Ra is the sun, and El is Saturn. That's Israel. They're three gods of creation. So essentially, putting that energy into the object carried over into the future. Now, a strange thing happened one day, and as I pretended to unlock the keys of the time machine inside of me on my chakras. I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna play with this, like I'm unlocking the time machine, blah blah." Anyway, my my roommate at the time was coming outside as I was about to lift the lid off the chicken pen to feed the chickens. And as I lifted the roof off of their little house, a chicken shot out, no lie, like it had been shot out of a catapult, and went straight through the bushes over into the neighbor's yard.
Whoa.
Now, it was the strangest thing because there was no reason for the chicken to do that. And number two, usually when a chicken gets out, they do not go very far, because they only know their flock. This chicken went into hyperspace and was gone. I stood there around for a few minutes looking. My roommate was like, "Oh my God, the chicken." I was like, "Yeah, I have no idea what just happened, but I cannot spend time looking for the chicken. I got to go. I got to be somewhere." I had an appointment. She had an appointment. We both left. She obviously came home before I did because as I come in the house, she goes, "Oh, did you put the chicken back in the pen?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "The chicken. It's that black and white chicken, right?" And I was like, "What?" Let me go see this. And I said, "Oh, maybe the neighbor put it back in," because I had texted my neighbor and said, "Hey, can you keep a lookout?" And I contacted him. He said no, he had not seen any chicken. Um, and there was nobody else to catch the chicken and put it back in the pen. Anyhow, my pen was like Fort Knox. It had fence even underneath their pen. So there's no way for this chicken to get back inside the pen. And with no one to put it back in, the only thing I can conclude is that somehow there was a link between unlocking the time machine with this anomalous object that we labeled time machine capabilities and what had happened. I don't know. All I know is there was a Mandela effect that took hold and no one could explain it. My roommate was a witness to the whole thing. Nobody would believe me if I didn't have at least one witness. So I don't know
Wow.
what to say, but that's only one thing that has happened to me. I have weird things all the time. And
Yeah, that's like, can I tell you before there's that guy Ken who comes on my show from We Are One podcast. He's always telling me he always has things disappear and appear and disappear. Like
yeah,
he said one time he saw something like an advertisement for something, then the next day he had it show up at his house and he never ordered it. Like it wasn't something he forgot about. He has a good mind and he's not on like drugs or anything like that. He just like, he just like thought of it and it like literally like appeared like someone ordered it for him, but like nobody would have ordered. It's just like so weird things happen to him like that too. Like, what do you think that is? And you've had stuff like weird stuff happen to you like that? Like,
let me tell you about have you heard of is it the Mahatma letters? I think it's Mahatman or something. The Helena Blavatsky went to Tibet. I think she spent 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. Anyhow, there she was able to exchange letters when she got back to America. She was able to exchange letters telepathically through some sort of it's kind of like this Mandela effect thing that we're discussing, through thought form with her master that she studied under. She was able to receive letters from him without, they would just manifest in front of her, basically. So I think we are reaching a pinnacle moment in our time period where we are going to be able to manifest things from the ether. And I have known this intrinsically, that with our focused thoughts and our collaborated minds, we can actually manifest everything that we need to survive this existence from the etheric plane. And we just have not been able to communicate with our higher intentions and our inner work because of all the outer work that we've been physically made to do. So I think this age of Aquarius is going to allow us the time to be able to focus inwardly because it is an air sign, and an age of air is going to always be associated with spiritual work. So, because it's all about mind, it's all about, non-tangible reality.
yeah, one thing I've noticed about me, like personally with like the manifestation, because I'm big on manifestation. I try to manifest all the time, but I've only been able to manifest small amounts, but I have been able to make small amounts come into my reality, like of like money, you could say when I needed it, or like,
Mhm.
that's usually what I'm trying to manifest. I mean, I know we should be more on a spiritual path, but like we still have to survive in the matrix, and so anyway, I try to use a lot of affirmations because one thing I've noticed is my brain is negatively because of this life and how this life kind of like beats you down. Like my brain is automatically negatively charged or not, I don't know if it's negatively charged, but like, like I automatically have negative thoughts. So I use this channel. It's called Rockstar Affirmations, where it'll play like an affirmation in your this ear, and it'll play an affirmation in this ear, and then you'll hear one in the center of your head, and it just keeps going and going and going for like 30 minutes. But what I've noticed is that helps me a lot, because then I like it's like putting those positive affirmations, and they have different things, like you can go for money, or whatever you want to try to manifest. If you want to try to lose weight, or you want to try to get a better job, or what. But like the one thing I noticed is I haven't been able to manifest big amounts or big things, or like big changes for some reason. And I think that has to do with like what I said about like the way my mind is programmed, you know?
Yeah, well, it is. We have been through a lot of very dark embedded programming from the darker. When you get into alchemy and you get to the higher aspects of the world, you realize that the darker forces that we're dealing with, like oligarchs who are greedy and all this other, they're basically the representatives of the darker attributes of ourselves. And when we ignore darkness and corruption, it begins to fester and to manifest into our world more directly where we can see it. And that's where we are, because we've allowed corruption to fester, and we've just sort of turned a blind eye to anything of darkness. No, that doesn't involve me. I'm not going to do anything about that. But it is also about astrological timing. And if anybody has a zodiac wheel, they can basically read our entire story just in the symbolic language.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what happened. You flashed out for a moment.
It's weird. I was switching my microphone, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
One thing I wanted to ask you was like, I used to watch Gerald Clark, a lot of his videos before he passed, and he talked about the book The Alchemist by I can't remember who. I had his wife Chris on the other day. It's a really good book, but a lot of people thought that alchemy was like the transmutation of lead into gold, but it's really about the transmutation of consciousness, right?
Yes. I'm just going to say that we're all alchemists, and the word itself says it is alchemists. Kemet was the lands before Egypt became about, before it was named Egypt. And if you look and study the Wheel of Time, you figure out that Kemet was the Old Kingdom, what's known as the Old Kingdom. They will not name it. They don't give it a name because they don't want people to look deeper into the knowledge of the story. And effectively, the shadows can only overshadow the truth, right? That's really the only tool that they have. So what I get a sense of, and this is just from my own personal introspection into what was happening at that time, is that Kemet was founded upon during the beginning of the age of Aries, because during the beginning of an age is the dawning of that age. That means it's the golden aspect, it's the golden spring of whatever the revival is at that particular astrological moment. And since that was the time of pyramid structures, they were bringing in the pyramids to act as channels for star powers. Because if you take a funnel and you turn it upside down, it effectively becomes a pyramid. So whatever you pour from the top is going to spread out towards the bottom, because there's only electric and there's only magnetism. Those are the two foundational forces in alchemy, in all of everything in existence. And we are all chemists, or chemists of spiritual and physical matter. There's only four elements, but the fifth one is the etheric. And so it's air, fire, which are electric, fire being the light from the stars and from the sun. Then you have earth and water, which are magnetic. This is yin and yang. So yin is magnetic, divine feminine, and yang is the divine masculine principle. Those two foundational forces create sex, a sexual union, which is composed of the Star of David. You have the upright pyramid, which is fire, and you have the downward facing pyramid, which is water. You overlap the two, and it becomes the symbol that was once universal for the language of alchemists. And to know where to find alchemists, it was used on signposts, it was used on buildings. The alchemists were the ones who studied the stars, who studied high magic, and knew the inner and outer language of how to medicate, how to divine, how to do a plethora of different things. They were basically the go-to, like the one-stop shopping at Walmart that you can do, but this was for somebody who had knowledge. And back during Egypt's day, they've been labeling them as priests or pharaohs. And at that time, remember, pharaohs became priest kings. What does that mean? It means that the kings basically became the magicians. And when you get to that level, it becomes a problem because now they're all powerful, all knowing, and they're going to start using alchemy to plan their continuity of governance, which is exactly what we're seeing right now. We're basically seeing a revival of old Babylonian type empire in a corporate kind of framework. And they have taken this knowledge and they have been using inverted alchemy against everyone. What they have been selling to the masses as chemistry and astronomy and all these things are all the inverted forms of what alchemy can teach people. Every bit of alchemy and what the old alchemists were trying to teach people is founded in the truth. And when you go to the truth, you can't go back. You start seeing all the veil of lies that we've been under. And so, it's a big, long road to investigate all these different subjects, but we're coming to a pinnacle point in our awareness and our time frame where they're going to be revealing like all of this stuff. Like, what are the UFOs used for? Well, obviously, there are still other beings here who can live eternally, who do monitor things. I'm not calling them the Galactic Federation and all that, so I don't think they necessarily need a term. I think there's terms that are being created by the CIA and the FBI and the darker shadow government that are going to be used as a great deception because they know the Great Awakening is here. They know that people are learning how to remote view and to do astrokinesis and doing all these other things. They got schools now teaching all this stuff, especially to children, and they're effectively creating what is known as Planet X. X is key. X, if you go into the Greek language and the alphabet there, you will see a lot of different words that are formed of symbols, like psi and phi and key and all these other things, because the Phoenicians were phonies and they took things from other places and adapted it for themselves. And the Phoenicians, who were Canaanites, became Hebrews of today. And we're not talking about the good people who have adapted that name. We're talking about the original forms through bloodline families or maybe even alchemy are still here today trying to invert divine code. We can witness this in our societies. They're inverting divine code, trying to corrupt it. They represent this dark force, and their god is Saturn. They call it El Elyon. But when you go down that trail too, you start looking at all these names of how they have the same description. All these gods with all these different names have the same descriptive things, like the god of storms and this other god, the all father god, and like all these other names. And you're just like, wait a minute, that is that. and that overlaps that. And that's how you narrow it down, that they're basically calling the ruling, what we call a planet, the gods. So there's only seven, because Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto do not exist in any magical occult practice or in any alchemy book. And when you look into that further, the Romans brought those into our timeline, and they're all like underworld gods. So it just screams even further that we're dealing with a death cult of Saturn, essentially. And that they are here. And I believe that during this winter phase of consciousness and this experience, we're in the grand winter cycle, which is why we have the ice wall and all these other things. Um, it is their job to effectively make the timelines stay on point with exchanging into from one age to another. There's these two forces of light and dark effectively create the change that are here to make sure that the timelines stay on point and do happen the way they're supposed to. It's all like one big stage play. When you get into the zodiac starts explaining the entire construct.
Yeah.
And when you get into the Cathara grid, which is the 12th Sephiroth versus the Kabbalistic tree, which is only 10, the Cathara grid lines up better with the 12 houses of the zodiac. And it's like the Kabbalistic tree is only 10, which means it's missing two. And like all of this is so important, really. And it gets deep, it gets dark, but it also gets light. And we're headed towards the light because we're going into the age of Aquarius. And that's the main thing to note. But as you and I were talking the other day, I think it's important for people to arm themselves with knowledge about spiritual things that they can do to thwart some of the experiences with these entities that might be affecting people's lives. Like you and I were having the conversation the other day, Rob, where you had some experiences.
Yeah,
that
it's been ongoing for a couple years. It's on and off. It seems to come on when full moons. It seems to come on when I recently went through like a split up like with like someone who was like a girl who was like a podcast partner, but then it was kind of turning into more than that, and you know we were almost like best friends. You know what I mean? So it was like that obviously put me in a depression state. And I think when I was telling someone this again, like when you lower your frequency, it really is I'm an absolute evidence of this. Like this is evidence now. I'm telling people, like when you lower your frequency, it opens you up for attachment. Somehow it does. You know
Yes,
what I mean? So like
yes.
there's something to this new age, like raise your vibe type stuff, because like I really feel the higher vibe you're in, the less you can be attached to by these demanding entities and stuff, you know?
I just want to say that I've been listening a lot to Michael Jackson's Thriller song. And when you re-listen to the lyrics of that song, it's essentially describing everything that's about to happen here. Um, he basically says that the demons are closing in on every side unless you change that number on your dial. And that means you have to switch, you have to change your channel inside of you, raising your channel, raising your frequency so that they cannot access your physical body. And I
Yeah,
think that's one of the things that, they've been trying to do is lower our vibrational frequency inside our bodies in order for us to become possessed by disembodied spirits, whether they be demons or just wandering spirits that can see us and see our energy fields.
yeah,
Apparently, there's the different planes that spirits can get stuck in. And I'm going to come back around to what we've been discussing full circle about some of the remedies. But I just want to put this out there that it dawned on me that we are putting our deceased inside of cube shapes, inside of containers, inside of boxes. And this again is also increasing the amount of satanic or Saturnian energy because Saturn's energy is a cube shaped. Now, when you get into listening to indigenous cultures around the world about what they have to say about, you know, citing the rights to the recently deceased and how the spirits are connected to the body for 3 days after they have passed, and how important it is to cite them rights to help guide them into the afterlife. We have not been doing that as a society, which means that there is potentially an enormous amount of disembodied, dislocated spirits walking around among us. And this can get very disruptive for certain people, especially ones that are very sensitive to these types of entities.
I think going back to what you were saying, I think that's what it is about me. I think I'm just sensitive to energy. Like I noticed one thing, I'm sensitive to like astral entities too. I noticed when I smoke weed at night, because I'll always like after I'm done with my podcast, I'll smoke a joint. And I noticed that like what it does is it, I mean, I'm not condoning any drugs. So for YouTube purposes, I don't want them to take down the video. I don't want anybody to use any drugs. You know, this is just something personal I do. But like I've noticed that when I smoke marijuana, it like opens up some kind of like vision in me where I'm able to see astral entities, and like all of a sudden I'll see entities, and I'm not crazy, guys. I'm
Yeah.
As you can see, I'm completely coherent, and I'm like 100% normal, but like I can literally see entities in my walls. And when I'm outside, I live in an apartment complex. There's a dumpster. I can see entities on the dumpster and shadows coming from that, and entities on the ground, and entities in the trees, and entities in the grass, and entities in the rocks. It's like there's astral entities everywhere watching us. Like it's just we don't have the whatever the I know people. This is kind of like a cliche thing. Everybody says we only see a certain percent of the electromagnetic spectrum, which could be absolutely true, or it was specifically designed that way. But we have a lot of things watching us in the astral. I don't know if they do that to prey on us or if they're just watching us, or it's weird though. Like, and I hope I don't know if I'm right or wrong, or, you know, but it seems like what I'm seeing is like absolutely there, you know?
Yes. Well, there is this question to ask you. Are you obtaining your resources from a trusted source or from one of these like outlets that's out here publicly?
Oh, trusted.
Yeah, because of the medical marijuana and all the stuff that the corporations have gotten their hands on, I wouldn't trust that at all for
Yeah.
anything. I basically had a friend that was living in California, and I think he was obtaining stuff from a dispensary, and he was having some severe trouble, obviously, with disembodied spirits that were possessing his mind because he kind of went off the deep end. So I do warn people, they're trying to get us possessed in all kinds of ways, but I wanted to offer solutions for
Yeah,
people too.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, one of the things I've been pretty good with just going inwards and sort of downloading solutions because my mind ponders over timelines. And I was wondering about Egypt and in the past of what they would use for soap. And I had pondered this thought for months. It would just come in my thoughts, whatever moment. And I'd be like, I wonder what they were using as soap because I don't think that they use the kind of soap that we use. And I think the soap that we use is actually wrong, honestly, because we're not supposed to wash all the oils off our skin and out of our hair and use plastics, of course. So all of a sudden, this thought came to me that I need to use oil and to add salt to the oil and then to bathe in that and to apply it to my body. Well, I began this in 2018. I began this practice of anointing myself with salt and oil, and the oil that I use is grape seed oil. So it's a very light oil and it goes into your skin very readily and it doesn't leave a greasy residue for very long. So I use the sea salt that I gained when I went to the Dead Sea. I actually collected about 2 pounds of salt and I added some of that. And I stir the mixture 3 times, 3 times counterclockwise, 3 times clockwise, and I do this 3 times in a row. I wanted to put intentions and magic into it. And basically, those are the forces of the universe going clockwise and counterclockwise. So I do that, and then I anoint myself starting from my feet and go up and especially focus on the belly button, putting the salt in my belly button because that's where we come into the world. And then all over, put it on my face and everything. Well, in 2018, I was adding that practice along with Kundalini yoga, which is a pranayama breathwork type of yoga where you use your focused breath and you meditate with your third eye. And I was doing a lot of earthing, like grounding with the earth, full body earthing, and also sun gazing and doing pranayama breathwork while sun gazing. Well, it started to activate Kundalini forces inside of me. On the second night of my Kundalini class is when I started having a lucid moment where I felt the energy inside of me while I was somewhat awake. And I could feel this resonant energy begin at the base of my spine and shoot up to the back of my neck, just below my skull. And it felt like it was just a resonant kind of semicircle around my neck. And it was a very strange sensation. But like a child, I began playing with this energy because I was like, okay, this is like one of the prerequisites to astral projection. And I want to remember how to turn this energy off and on. So I did this with my subconscious mind. And I began flipping it on and off like a switch, a light switch in a room. And I did it about 12 times and I fell asleep, unfortunately. But as a practice, I only had it that month for about 4 weeks. I did the Kundalini yoga and I was doing the breath work and all that stuff. And I let my friends know all my results. And I did not continue to follow the practices, unfortunately. But I know that by studying alchemy, salt is one of the base root foundations of our entire body. And since it is a crystalline structure, we need different types of salts, and those 12 salts exist inside of us. And the 12 processes of alchemy exist inside of us, inside the organs. As we consume food, it goes down, it gets digested, and it goes through distillation and calcination, and all the different processes are inside of us. In astrology, in the Western astrology, the signs for the houses of the zodiac are alchemy symbols for the different 12 processes of alchemy, which means we are being alchemized as we go through each incarnation into each astrological house to evolve and hone our soul into something greater in the future. Now, as the Egyptians were trying to teach back then about the two parts, the Ka and the Ba aspects of ourselves, I essentially get that the Ka is the key or light force energy, which is the above, which is yang. And then the Ba is the lower shadow self, or what they call the shadow self, or dark night of the soul and all that stuff. I believe that's the soul. So you have a spirit and you have a soul.
See,
And
one thing I heard, I don't know, I heard something different, but I don't think I'm right. I heard this a long time ago. I heard that the Ka was like the material world and the Ba was like the inner world, like our soul, like you said, the soul. But I heard the Ka
yes,
was like, I don't know.
here's what I start gathering. Again, like for me, I embody a lot of different subjects. Like I
Yeah.
tap on different subjects. And when you come across cymatics of sound, and you come across the days of the week and the names of the days basically they're the 7 planetary bodies as they have changed names throughout time. The ba sounds like ma, but you put that pop with the ba, with the B sound, right? But when you sound off a B, you have to put your lips together to form an M. Ba. So I'm saying that the Ba is the moon and the Ka is the sun, and they're the two channels, just like Pingala and Ida, that are inside of us. They are the sun and the moon channels, which is the divine masculine, divine feminine. And in Egypt's day, they would be the Kaaba, the Kaaba.
Oh, okay. That's
That
cool. Yeah.
it's the spirit and the soul, the light of the sun and the moon. It's in every practice you go through, in every mystery school, in every like religious book, and all the, it's always the same three entities. You have the sun, the moon, and Saturn. The sun, the moon, Saturn. Sol, Om, Mon. You get it?
Solomon. Solomon.
Sol. Sol is sun for whoever created this name. Sol. Om is Saturn. Mon is moon. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like in all of these different timelines, it's always the same major three.
And what was Israel again? Isis, Ra, and
Isis,
El.
Ra, and El.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And El
And
would be Enlil, maybe possibly, and Ra
yes.
could be Marduk, and Isis is is Isis, I guess. Yeah. I
So,
mean,
and that whole Enki and Enlil thing are also going back to the sun and the moon, because you have Enki, Ki is the light, Ki is like life force. In Lilith, Lilith is known as the moon, the dark side of the moon, or the dark attributes of the moon. Each planetary body has two sides. They have a lighter side and a darker side, and that's their different attributes, which is positive and negative. And it goes into like all this alignment. And it's so fascinating to dive into that, and then to pull it out, and then to use it and see it in society in motion, in real time, you know?
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
effectively everything goes back to astrology, everything in this existence. The fallen angels, they're literally telling us in our faces, fallen angel language is not truth. They cannot use the truth because truth is light. So
Yes.
what do? They have to use shadows. They have to use inverted tongue, inverted speech, symbolic language, all of these things. They tell you lies in the media. They sell it as truth. Then they give you the entertainment, and they sell you the truth as lies in fictional format. And
Yeah.
that's the fallen angel code of conduct. And they tell you that it's Hollywood. A holly tree grows the most in the wintertime of dark, cold, hard, lifeless time of year. That's Hollywood, the magic wand to cast black magic spells in Los Angeles. They leave the fallen part out, but it's basically the city of fallen angels. And then we walk on their stars on Hollywood Boulevard. They're under our feet. Do you see what there's some?
Literally and figuratively, because they're
Yes,
probably underground too, you know?
yes. Like we are
That's
higher
fascinating.
than them, but we have not yet realized it because we have the power of the light. And once we come together collectively to cohese our intentions and thoughts into one forming mind, we cannot be stopped because we outnumber them. And that is why they are doing this whole agenda with putting out all of these cameras before we become online and we become interconnected through our own internet.
Of telekinesis, right?
Yes,
It would be natural telekinesis.
yes. And the children are being born with those concepts right now.
And that's why they want us to upload into the cloud or do this all this
Yes.
weird AI shit, transhumanism, so we don't come into our abilities.
Let me tell you just a little bit about what I see. We are interacting with a corporatocracy world, right? Like everything's becoming a corporatized, technocratic corporatocracy is what we're falling under right now. They own every bit of the internet, the ENTER net. They're collecting us and our data into the World Wide Web. What is a web? It's a spider's web, which is not a very good place to be, honestly. They are going to connect us to their cloud system. Remember, it says people will be raptured up to the sky, up to the cloud. I'm like, yeah, because they'll be so happy that they're getting free money or whatever it is they're going to give us to maintain our area and our smart cities and stuff. And people will rapture themselves up to the sky in the cloud, the internet cloud, with uploading their consciousness, with playing video games inwardly instead of externally. But it requires your consent. Everything about this dark technology requires our consent to contract with it. And that is something that I pulled in from studying of just a little bit about law and about common law versus corporate law versus maritime law, which is what we're all falling under right now. We're following maritime admiralty laws of the sea that govern corporations. We are not using our de jure common laws. And the Constitution is being basically walked upon and stepped upon and ignored by most of the courts in this country. This is a very serious
You know
crime.
what? I think I remember one of the shows we did, you told me about how you basically kind of fought the courts, right? You went in and you basically stood your ground, I think, right?
Because certain courts are still de jure, certain ones, especially small towns.
How are you supposed to know?
You find out as the cities get bigger, they will not recognize that you number one, no one can tell you in this existence what your signature is. And when people start dictating how you can write your signature and how you can't, that's a dictatorship. That's not a de jure government.
Yeah.
And I experienced that in a larger city court. I was caught holding my cell phone, which I did not know this was a felony now. Y'all better know
A
this.
fucking felony? Holding
They're
your cell
considering
phone?
it yes. January 1st is when they created this law, at least in Georgia. Check your state laws, but it's probably across the United States now. Holding your cell phone is a felony, but yet it's only a $50 fine. Does that make any sense?
Wait
No.
a minute. Holding it where? You mean in your car or something, or
Just
what?
holding it in your hand while driving. And
Oh, okay.
I
That's
had
what
mine in my hand. I just had
Yeah.
it. I didn't even have it up to my face. I wasn't looking at it. I just had it in my hand. And I'm at a stop sign and I'm just looking both ways, stopped. And then I go and this sheriff pulls me over and I'm like, excuse me? It was really interesting because he comes up to my window. I'm like, oh, please. They've been taught all the lies to enact upon us.
Oh
And
yeah, they're definitely
they're operating as a corporation.
they're programmed 100%,
Yes.
brainwashed. They're
He
absolutely
comes,
brainwashed.
he comes up and he's like, I pulled you over because you're holding your cell phone. I'm like, whatever. I give him my license, which I need to get rid of all this stuff. Anyway, he comes back and gives me the ticket. I sign it, no contract, and I do not consent to contract. I wrote that and gave it back to him. He looks at it. He goes, is this how you sign your name? And I was like, yes. He's like, that's how you make your signature. I said, yes, it is. He's like, I can arrest you and take you to prison. I said, you can't tell me what my signature is. And he goes, have a nice day. And he turns, on heel, goes in his car, slams the door and speeds off. And I was like, yeah, it's that easy. But then the judge, when I went before the judge, because I was like, man, this is ridiculous. I do not consent to contract, And I said, I humbly ask for remedy. And she goes, remedy, what is that? I was like, every judge knows remedy. They know their own words, So anyway, it's like, really? I was like, oh my God, she's going to try to give me, a run for my money. Anyhow, she basically committed 4 counts of treason in the moments that I was before her. And I had a witness and we were both flabbergasted. Like this woman said, She does not, her court does not abide, they do not recognize common law. And I said, well, you recognize the Constitution of the United States of America, right? She said, yes, we do. And I was like, well, that's common law. She's like, well, codes and statutes are now common law. And I was like, no, it's not. It's never been common law. Code, statutes, and regulations govern corporations. Anyhow, instead of arguing with this criminal that was before me, because I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere, I just went, whatever. What have I got to do? And she's like, well, you got to go buy a device that holds your phone so it can be hands-free. And I was like, okay, fine. So I went to Five Below, got the ticket, and got the receipt and showed her, and I was absolved. And I had to sign an affidavit thing that said that I would never hold my phone. It was ridiculous. I'm like, okay. And I canceled that contract too. You can do this, by the way. She would not let me sign my name with upholding my own rights, which is a UCC 1-308 and a without prejudice underneath my signature. She wouldn't let me use that. And that is actually part of the signature that I use when I sign things. Because if you look up these codes in the Universal Commercial Code, it reserves your rights. You reserve your rights. And she would not accept it. And I'm like, wow, you will not accept my rights. We are in deep trouble, people. We are in deep, deep trouble. We are going under the deep state's rule. And there's going to be half good and half dark out here, half light and dark. Anyhow, our world is changing rapidly, and a lot of the players are taking their roles seriously. And Saturn is the challenger of this age and the one to follow, which is Capricorn. So they're creating monsters and labs to basically rule us in the age of Capricorn. And this is how time flows. Is like everything that's happened before is still here around us and is happening again. And so, anyhow, time is a very strange thing, but when you begin to study it, it starts revealing itself before you and how it actually operates. When you truly resonate with truth inside, things will present themselves to you because you become a seeker inside and outside. And that's essentially, how I feel my life is right now. And I can't change that because I don't want to change it. I don't want to be one of these people that portrays myself as anything else but aligned with the light, even though a lot of the subjects that I breach are very dark because I feel like they need to be brought to the light. And more people just need to gain awareness so that they will not be broadsided by the things that are coming upon the earth right now. And, the Bible is just a record of the zodiac. And that's another thing that people need to realize is that they're telling us everything, even though some of that book was very, very much altered. Because anytime you see Lord in all capital letters, it's a reference to Saturn, which is all capitalized because all capital letters represents dead entities, and that's why they're also found on tombstones. The all caps letters, that is. So, but I wanted to get into more of the weird things that we had been discussing so that we can also talk more about remedies for people, especially with spirits that come into your home and things of that nature. Sage has always been a go-to for clearing your space. And the Palo Santo, is clearing and bringing in the positive energy as well. So smoke in general is really good for clearing, especially with the technologies. Let me tell you, when my computer starts doing weird things, it tells me it does not have a screen, for example. It doesn't, it's like, I've taken screenshots of some of this stuff before because all of a sudden it'll tell me that it has no keyboard or there's some other weird thing that it does. I go for the sage because I know that it's not really telling me the truth. And as soon as I light the sage or even threaten to get the sage, it instantly changes. This technology is a channel for disembodied spirits, whether they be demonic or otherwise, to come through into our existence. I'm not sure exactly how it's done. It's probably something to do with the liquid crystal displays and the
Black
blue
mirrors.
light.
They're black mirrors. You know,
Yes.
it's like a technique. It's a technique of scrying. And like that woman who used to come on my show, Renetta Jones, she passed away. She talked about how entities came through electricity, how they would come through electricity. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yes, I can see that. Now let me tell you about the frequencies too. The frequency of the light, they are using blue light tech because it is connected to the dark light of the world, which is the moon. Why do we call it blue moon? It is not because there's 2 full moons in a month. It is the blue throat chakra energy. These 7 planetary bodies are honored as the 7 days of the week. Each one coincides with a color that is part of the 7 rays of the visual light spectrum that we see. And they are connected to the 7 chakras that are inside of us. So the blue light, being that it is the moon light or moon sphere in Tibetan Book of the Dead, you can read about how we go through these different light spheres, basically. They don't put the word light, but you can deduce that once you get into alchemy, that they were trying to tell us that they are spheres. They're like auric fields of energy that are all around us that can be affected by the different color fields. And they're using the blue light as moonlight to amplify the magnetism all around us. This is why they call it electromagnetic frequencies, EMFs. They're using more magnetism with blue energy, blue light spectrum, to affect and change, alter our moods and our surrounding environment. Now, we are light beings of the sun for all 7 rays. That means that we can alter our frequencies when we're in the sun's light. We can like change all these different frequencies and manipulate them and stuff with our conscious and unconscious mind when we learn how to do things. But since they're putting out more moonlight, it's really altering our moods. That means emotional states, that means physical states, that means even allowing other things into our field, like through the technology, through the moonlight. There are entities that can only operate through that dark light. And since we are changing and terraforming our world to invite these disembodied spirits and these dark demonic entities into our world, we're going to be seeing some weird things real soon. We're going to be seeing them. Like, I've already spoken to different people before I left that show that I was on. I started speaking to people in different departments about some of the weird things that they have seen. And what's weird too is that I'll meet people out in life, in stores and places in the surrounding environment that also share their stories with me. So I have this innate ability to find the people who have had strange experiences and encounters with other beings that they've never seen before in their lives. Somehow these people are attracted and magnetic to me. And so I need to start like interviewing some people on my channel that have seen some things. Anybody wants to have an interview, please contact me because I'll start interviewing people about all this weird stuff. So just for an example, I had a coworker who was in another department who drove a forklift. He was from the Appalachian Mountains. He grew up there. And I said, so what about the things they say about Appalachian Mountains? I said, is that true? He said, absolutely. He said, hands down, everything you hear is true. He said, you don't whistle in the woods. You don't whistle back. If you hear something whistling, if something calls your name, you do not answer to it. If you hear someone calling help, you do not try to go find them. Like all these different things. He said, you close your doors, lock your doors and windows at night, and you also close the blinds or curtains or whatever you have. You close all the windows because things will start looking inside your house at night. And I said, well, did you see anything? He's like, yeah, absolutely. He said, when I was a little kid, Sometimes I would go and open the curtains and look, and there would be something looking back at me. And I'm like, well, what was, I'm like, what was it? He said, I have no idea what it was. But this one time, there was a pale white face looking at me. It had hollowed out blackened eye sockets. It did not have eyes. They were just like empty eye sockets that were black. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds like Jack Skellington in Nightmare Before Christmas. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, it also
You
sounds
know,
like
it sounds like one of those rakes. Do you know, like in the
exactly.
paranormal, they talk about those rakes?
And I told him, I said, it also sounds like what they call the rake. And he was like, well, I don't know what it was, but it was scary. And it was looking at me. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. I said, well, was there anything else you ever saw? He said, yes. He said one night he opened it up and there was a hairy chest in front of the window. And I said, what? So what was a Sasquatch? He said, I don't know. I couldn't see the head. It was so tall that basically it was taller than the window and I couldn't
Holy
see the rest
shit.
of it. And I was like, oh my God. I said, that had to be a Sasquatch. He said, well, he's like, all I know is, everything they talk about with that is absolutely true. And I was like, well, that's crazy and amazing at the same time. He's like, yeah, well, you don't mess with the woods,
Well, it's kind of like we talked about. I think the veil's thinning. I've been talking about this on other shows. I think like I have a bad habit. I still smoke every once in a while. I tried the American spirits, but I don't think they're any better whatsoever because like I think they were bought out by Philip Morris. But anyway, so I went out at like I woke up at like 2, 3 in the morning, and I went out to have a smoke. And I told this the other night too, and but this was amazing. It really was like so. I just went out to smoke and like I know I had my wits about me. Like I was fully aware of everything that was going on. You know what I mean? Even though like I'm like a light sleeper. I'm not like out of it or anything like that. And I looked and behind like behind the cars, there was this creature walking. And it looked like smaller than a bigger than like a fox or a raccoon, but smaller than a bear. So maybe it could have been and I was like, is that like some kind of interdimensional creature? But what was weird is it walked behind the cars and then I never saw it again. Like it never walked another way. I never saw it walk further down the parking lot. It just kind of walked past and just kind of like, I don't even know where it went. I don't even know what it was. It was really weird.
well,
It makes me think the veil's thinning and like we're going to start
mm,
seeing more and more stuff.
well, let me tell you this. Um, Basically, there's creatures that can pop in and out of this existence. They have it's either technology or abilities. One or the other. Anyhow, um, so my boss told me a story and it just kind of blew me away. His brother, they had two different fathers, but they had the same mother. He said, you need to talk to the foreman. He was the foreman. He's like, talk to him because his dad actually had a friend who was a shapeshifter. And he said that I guess he was in Africa or something, like he lived in Africa. And he said that his friend had talked to his dad, had been visiting him or something. And he said that he's like, I'm tired. I'm just going to go home. I'm so tired of everything. I'm going to go home. He walked down to the river, turned into an alligator, and got in the river and swam away.
What? Holy shit.
And I'm just telling you, like, here's what I've learned based on listening to a lot of Native American lore. And if you get into Carlos Castaneda, you get, like, listen
Yeah.
to all
I
these
love
different
fascinating.
things. They're talking about shapeshifters who effectively either they've contacted a dark shaman or a shaman who has done some magic for someone to help them turn into an animal and don that ability, or they've contacted witches and the witches have given them that ability. Through black magic practice, they've allowed them to be able to change into forms of animals. And I think that's associated with very dark magic. I don't think that's a good thing. I think we can eventually achieve and acquire that in a natural way if we allow our incarnations and abilities from the light of the sun to come into ourselves. I believe that we can do it naturally. So I think that's part of the reality that's also coming with disclosure. I think the fact that there are shapeshifters everywhere all around us.
Absolutely.
I have another friend, and I might have told this story on your channel before, I'm not sure, who had gone into downtown Atlanta, gone to a store there with her daughter. It was the Michaels art store. Nobody's in the parking lot. It's almost time to close the store. She stays in the car, and her daughter is walking towards the store to get whatever it was. All of a sudden, this black man appears from out of nowhere. Just boom, instantly he's there, walking in a very direct and intentful manner towards her daughter, crosses in front of her car, looks at her in her car. She said he had like yellow eyes that had slits.
Wow.
He was making a beeline towards her daughter. She said she immediately stepped out of the car and started yelling at him, pointing at him, telling, you stop right there. And he instantly disappeared in front of her. She said, I know you're not going to believe me, but these things exist. And I was like, I totally believe you, because I've been talking to other people randomly, strangers who share stories with me about things that they are seeing now. And not only that, but I mean, people who have been abducted, seen UFOs, experience things, anomalous things. And I'm all about this stuff because I believe it's part of our truth movement, really.
Yeah, it is.
And so, that incident happened, and I met this woman who was inside a health food store in downtown Atlanta area. And she and I just began talking. We just hit it up. We were talking about truthful things. And all of a sudden she starts telling these stories where she had gone to South Georgia and was intending to purchase land at this one place. So her and her family were there looking at the land. They wandered out into the woods to look at everything. And all of a sudden the woods went silent. No birds, no breeze, no crickets, no bugs. All of a sudden everything was silent. And she said they all looked at each other in that moment, like, oh my God, what's going on? And it's like, she said, it's as if someone said to them all at once, run. And they each just took off, boom, running back to the open field that they had come through. And she said they're freaked out, and they get to the field, and all of a sudden all the light and the sound and the birds and everything comes back. And that type of scenario was actually mentioned in the Can-Am Missing 411 The Hunted series that was on Netflix. And there was a hunter who had described she was up in her deer stand on her own property. While she was sitting there, all of a sudden the woods went silent, and she could see this thing moving through the treetops like saran wrap. And it reminded me of the movie The Predator. Instantly, I
Whoa.
was like The Predator. Um, and she said it was moving kind of towards her, but then it started moving away from her. And as it moved farther away, the sound came back. And what that told me, if sound is light, it's using technology that absorbs the light.
Yeah.
So it
But
cannot be discovered. And I
what
was like, oh,
one thing going back to Renetta, she had some good stories. She told me one time she got lost in West Virginia, which is right near me because I'm up in Pittsburgh, and I got lost in West Virginia too a couple years ago when I was on my way down to Florida for the conference. But she told me that they were headed somewhere, and like somehow I guess their GPS wasn't working, or maybe I don't know if this is, I can't, I'd have to go back and watch. I did a lot of shows with her, but she said that she started getting these like thoughts in her head. Something was telling her to turn around. It kept telling her to turn around, and all of a sudden she got this vision of like something out in the woods. Like she got the vision of like necks breaking, like, and then something was like eating, like, I don't want to get like, gross, but like some kind of creature was like, like feasting on humans or something. And she kept getting these strong feelings to turn around. So she made the person she was with turn around, and like, it's weird when we get those kind of feelings. I guess we got to react to them, and that's what's important about kind of coming full circle. We're coming more into our intuition
Yes.
now with what's going with this whole awakening.
Yes, we have to hone our discernment because that's going to keep us alive for what's coming upon the earth. That same woman who talked about the silence in the woods, she shared another story about how she was driving down one of the roads. I guess it was not not too far from Atlanta, and she said she saw a wolf with a back. The back of the wolf was as high as her SUV down the road from her. And she says she stopped in the middle of the road because that thing was in the middle of the road and it was crossing from one side to the other. She said this was no normal wolf. This thing was enormous, like a dire wolf. And whether it was Dogman or not, she said she basically stopped her car, saw that thing. Its back was as high as the hood of her car, which was an SUV. And she said she turned around and she went the other way again because she said there's no way she was going to even get near that thing, whatever it was. That's how scary it was. So people are seeing what they're calling Dogman. I think it's like a type of werewolf thing. Could be, super soldier. I've heard about that too, about the super soldier program where they actually have put them out into the national forests and they're trying to get them to do a breeding program where they breed and they just proliferate and then are all out everywhere. And I think that is what they're doing because when people find out that they are forced to live within a 15-minute smart city and confined to a particular zone, that more people would obviously break free of their restraints and go live in the nature. So what they're doing is they're creating all of these super soldier type cryptids to be a force against those people who are living in the wild again.
Wow, that's horrible. Yeah.
Well, it says in the Bible, men's hearts will fail them for what comes upon the earth. And it is, I think that's essentially what they're talking about. Like the giants are being reproduced. Why do you think they took the body of Gilgamesh after they dug it up and from Iraq or wherever? They took it down to Antarctica because I was following that whole narrative. They put it on a Russian icebreaker ship and it stopped off of some western coast city of Africa. And then it went on down to Antarctica. You can follow that story. I mean, the whole thing about them finding the body of Gilgamesh and then taking it. And I'm like, what? And then, there was a sheik who had talked about the crude oil. He's like, it's not oil. It's the river of lead that flows through the lands of Gog and Magog, which is the land of the dead, basically. So I figured out it's what was called the river Styx in Grecian times. And it's, Chiron,
The river Styx was the river that as you cross for the afterlife, right?
Yes, yes. But listen, I mean, sticks, right? It sticks to you. Oil sticks to you, right? So I'm like, oh my God. And that's Saturn's metal is lead. Another good thing about learning alchemy, you will start to formulate remedies. Once you get into alchemy, you get into yin and yang, you start doing the comparative analysis of air, fire, water, earth, what the magnetism and electricity. Then you align the noble metals with each planetary body. It starts making sense of what you can do with these planetary metals. And the elixir of life is formed from gold. The elixir of health is formed from silver. And I'm just putting that out there. I'm not giving everybody the entire formula, but I am making the elixirs currently. It takes 3 years. But these types of things are out here for everybody to grab onto. And I think right now we need to grab onto all the alchemy knowledge we can because they are about to throw the book at us. Free energy comes from the knowledge of alchemy. Nikola Tesla was on to following the alchemists. And all he did was research some of the stuff that they were doing in the early 1800s. I believe that the water towers were actually Wardenclyffe towers that were, pre-Tesla, and he was rediscovering them. because water towers are not what we're told, and DARPA owns most of them, if not all of them, in this country now. And why would a space weapons manufacturer want the water towers specifically? Not because they're water. I think when you look,
or it's because they're connected to these data centers they want to use the water for the data centers, because it seems like they're trying to put a lot of these data centers in, and these data centers use enormous amounts of resources, and they're building these data centers behind our backs. They're building them without any permission. They're just popping them up all over the place. It's kind of like an Orwellian, like weirdness. It freaks me out. Like, I hope a lot more people stand up against the data centers, because I think that's a yeah. What have you been looking into that?
Yeah, so they're building 6 of them in my area alone, but
They're building 2 here, one in my town and the town that I grew up in next to it.
they have plans to do 16. You can get the community to place an emergency injunction upon them. They are being stopped in other states because of the secrecy that is behind it. The people who are involved with selling the property and building it and all that, they've all signed NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and they are doing these secretly. And it's all just corrupt. They're trying to do all this stuff because they know the Great Awakening is coming. They know that people are about to become aware of literally everything that they've been up to. So it's their last throw of their deck of cards at us to establish their version of the New World Order before it gets flipped and we flip the entire script. They will not succeed in this time period, but they are planting the seeds where they will succeed in a future timeline down the road. We're entering the golden spring of Saturn. It means it's going to be a dark time, a dark golden spring, because Saturn is a very dark energy. And first, we have to establish our spiritual elevation and awareness before they can really do a lot of things. This is my take on the whole thing. The spiritual awareness basically will negate all of their material idealism and the things that they've been teaching us, that there's no other spiritual thing. You have to go through their hired lackeys in order to obtain any sort of connection with God. Like, all of these things have been an inversion of truth, as we already know. So when people find out that God is inside them and that they can access God without having an agent to go and speak to, it's going to be a whole different ballgame, because now they're going to be accessing directly the source code instead of trying to think outwardly about tangible things. And this all started in the age of Taurus, when we started the descent for the love of material things. That's why they use bull symbolism literally everywhere, because the bulls and cows, that bovine symbolic language is all about the earth and the material plane. And so they use it in a lot of their language. So, and it's just like, in India, they worship the cow as the mother god that gives life and, sustains it. And that's why they allow these cows to walk up and down the street. They don't eat cows. That's a sacred animal. So when they taught us in the West these darker attributes of consume the earth, be a consumer, consume the meat and eat this, that's lowering our consciousness and our vibratory rate. So, there's a lot to consider with this Great Awakening. I see how we're doing literally everything wrong. And, we, as co-creators of this reality, have been basically co-destroying this reality by accepting the ways that we follow. We defecate in the water that provides us life and sustenance. We disregard it. We throw trash to it, and the water holds memory.
Yeah,
We are terraforming Earth for these demonic beings to come and walk amongst us. And if you go and you look up the 7 deadly sins, those are gone. Like those are completed a long time ago. And the sins, sin is the moon in Arabic. So this is where
Yeah, because
that comes
there's
in.
Enlil's son was named Nanar Sin, and they said he was the moon god, which was interesting, right?
Yeah, and again, you'll see the same repetitive entities and connections to the solar deities when you go into all of these stories. Like literally every story around the world, you can start to figure out there's the sun, there's the moon. Where is Saturn? Because Saturn is the whole encompassing material plane of space and time. We are inside Saturn's domain. And that is why the L-ites, well, L eats, Saturn eats his children. We're all children of Saturn as we explore the 4 elements of alchemy. And that is exactly what the alchemists were trying to tell us, that this auric fields of light all around us, and that nature is Venus. That's the Venus sphere. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead kind of goes into some of this stuff, where it says the Venus sphere is green. That's love. That's why nature is so nurturing and healing for us. And so that's the heart chakra, right? And of course, we know when you take that H of the word heart and you put it on the end, it becomes earth. So it's like we're in the center, we're in the middle point between 2 opposing forces, which is the light and the dark. One is the electric and one is the magnetic. And Saturn, since it's a black hole sun, won't you come? Yeah. Well, this is the abyss, the bottomless pit that they talk about. And
That's
I
interesting.
believe,
Wasn't Chris Cornell onto something, or like before he died too? I think. Or
oh,
they said,
listen, these people who are in the industry of Hollywood, in that whole arena, whether it be the film industry or music videos and music and all that stuff, they are all brought into some of the innermost circles of the occult world and Freemasonic, what Skull and Bones. All of these worlds collide and they begin to manufacture all of the fallen angels, which are the fallen angles of the zodiac that's found in heaven.
and if you read Thoth says avoid the angles, right? He's in the Emerald Tablets. For some reason, he says avoid the angles. I don't know what.
Yes, because the angles can only operate in straight lines, and straight lines are masculine. He said that you can avoid the hounds of the barrier by creating circles, by spiraling. And then you make a circle out of your body, which I guess, you bend backwards and grab your feet, or maybe you like go into a ball. I don't know. Um, but I believe it has everything to do with, again, more spiritual language that we have not been privy to. It's ones, which are masculine, and zeros, which are feminine. And that's the divine code of this entire existence. And they are trying to corrupt it. And I have a book, and people can go and find this book. It's called Spirit Releasement Therapy. And it's about a dentist who started using hypnosis on his clients. And as he was progressing with his hypnosis and hypnotic regressions and knowledge there, he began to depossess people who are gay.
Wow.
He said that when he would depossess them, they would become straight again.
Wow.
And I'm not meaning that in a very spiteful or hurtful way. I'm just putting that out there and suggesting that their inverted alchemy has been used as a weapon against us for a very long time.
Yeah.
Atrazine in the water turns male frogs into female frogs.
Oh yeah, Alex Jones said that. It's absolutely true. He was like, they're turning the frogs gay. But it was true. Like how many things Alex Jones said that came true? It's unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like he was like him and Bill Cooper were on 9/11 before it happened. Bill Cooper and Alex Jones both called out 9/11. They said it would be Osama bin Laden. They said the government would blame Osama bin Laden, even more so. It was like somehow they both knew. I don't know how they knew, but they knew. You know, I think Alex Jones got it from Bill Cooper. Somebody that, Bill Cooper was in that bad shootout. Like, like something really bad happened to him. Like, I think they murdered Bill Cooper. I really do. I don't know.
There is no telling because we are in such a crazy, like 20D game. Tyler Hansen, are you familiar with who he is?
I know that. No, not really. I don't know. I don't know.
I see him on Facebook and on Instagram, and this guy, Tyler Hansen, has been finding all of the deceased famous people alive and now perpetuating, or perpetrating themselves as someone else under a different name. And he has found a lot of people, including Robin Williams, who is now Uncle Pappy.
Who the hell is Uncle Pappy?
Just when you like here, okay, so here in law, here's a little thing. In law, if you've been a criminal and you've committed crimes that would basically bury you, if you die, you're absolved of all your crimes.
Really?
Let that sink in for a moment. Yes. So if there have been human trafficking cases all around Hollywood and all these rich people, not to imply that, Robin Williams was one. I have no idea. I don't know. But if you're following those inner circles and you're making a lot of money, there's probably something against you because they don't allow people to become famous without having something against them. So, if you die, this is in law, and you had a criminal record, you were absolved of all your crimes because you're now dead. So, a lot of these people could potentially be faking their deaths in order to avoid any sort of criminal actions against them.
It's weird. Like the other day I had Missy Hill on my show, and we were talking about people who might be like, there might be like clone swaps and like soul swaps and body transfers. And like, we looked at pictures of like Oprah and Candace Owens, like, which is crazy. Cause like if Candace Owens ever sees this, I'm actually kind of a fan of Candace Owens. I mean, I don't believe in any politics. I'm not right or left, I'm more in the middle and independent. Like, I think it's all bullshit, but I like Candace, but like, we thought there was a weird resemblance between her and Oprah. Then there's a weird resemblance between Zena LaVey of the Church of Satan and Taylor Swift, which it's weird. It's really weird. Like it almost looks like something could have happened there. And then what was one of the other ones? If you guys are in the audience, we pulled up one more that was I can't remember. And then also there's these weird like these actors that look like they've had a clone replacement, like Jim Carrey. If you've looked at like images or pictures of Jim Carrey lately, he looks like he's absolutely been swapped out. You know what I mean? Like it looks like there's some entity literally living in his body.
Yeah, that's not Jim Carrey. That's not the original Jim Carrey. There was something that I saw on Facebook that said that this actor asked Jim Carrey if he could portray him, and Jim Carrey agreed. And so he's put his face out there and acting like Jim Carrey, even though you can tell it's not him.
What was weird is like before all this happened, like he knew a lot about, like he was like, I mean, like before, I even know he did Living Color and he was like a comedian on all those movies. He was really spiritually aware. Like there's like a lot of clips of him talking about like some really like somewhat in depth like spiritual stuff. So I wonder if like he took a deal with an entity or something to like,
Well, I have to say that I met Jim Carrey when I worked on Dumb and Dumber 2. And he certainly didn't act like he was spiritually aware then. He came to the rap party and I asked him to dance. I just told my friend, I said, I just want to see what he'll do if I ask him to dance, because he just showed up, and he was hanging out. And I went up to him and I said, hey, would you like to dance? I mean, just as a crew member. I'm not trying to date the guy because I don't find anything interesting about him in that regard. So he was like, oh, no, 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 no. No, not now. No, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, okay, weird, but that's, anyway, an hour later, he was in his 50s then, approximately. And about an hour later, this 20 nothing girl walks in and is with him for the rest of the night. So I was like, oh, there it is. Somebody you've never seen before in the media. And it just, you know, I hate to say it, but it was probably a hired girl for the night, honestly. And so I was like, there's the answer to my question that I asked him. So I was like, okay, this is a different perspective. But
How long did you work in the movies for? Like how long did you work in the
17 years.
Wow. I bet you worked on a lot of cool movies. Or movies that we maybe thought were cool then, but now we would probably think, well, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right?
It's like, there's a laundry list, but yeah, I mean, Walking Dead was one of the big ones for TV because I did
Well,
a
you worked on The Walking Dead? That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
for 4 years. I was on Walking Dead and Vampire Diaries. I worked on Stranger Things for a week. I filled in for a friend while she went on a cruise, and just different stuff. I did Dumb and Dumber 2, did Blended, did
Wait, what was Blended? Which one was that?
that was with Drew
Is that
Barrymore,
I thought
and Adam Sandler. Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Did Scary Movie 5 and with Charlie Sheen and Lindsay Lohan and, like, big names. I mean, I've been around some big name characters, but
Oh, I got a good question for you since you've been in the movies. This is one that's been kind of been in like in my scope of reality because of what I do and everything that's involved. Okay. So what do you think of Disclosure Day, the movie coming out on June 12th with Steven Spielberg? And what are your thoughts on Spielberg? Let me just preface this a little bit. A lot of people think that Spielberg might be like there's might be some things wrong with him. They mentioned the girl that was in Poltergeist back in the day that he did something with her, and other people say he's this and that. I don't want to say anything because I don't know for sure, and I don't want to accuse him. Like I said before, I thought maybe he was a Satanist, but like I don't want to put that out there because I don't know him for sure. You know what I mean? I don't know anything about him. I can't prove anything, but I mean, I don't. I just. But then it's weird that like all throughout time, like he's known a little bit about all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like if you look back, like he did a show on alien abduction in 2002, which was called Taken. You know what I mean? Back when like that was rarely being talked about, he did Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
yeah.
It's almost like he knew, it's almost like he knows stuff, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I think these people have been up to unscrupulous things. I don't know them personally, but I do know that if you follow the trail of money and the people who are playing the game with the most money have gone to the darkest places. And that's a
Yeah.
fact
Yeah.
because fallen angels aggrandize the material world. They
Yeah.
want only the material gains and all its dark secrets. And of course, through necromantic practices, you can summon entities that will gain you access to those secrets. Those entities, however, require blood sacrifices. They want blood as payment.
Yeah. That's something I always hear, right? That's what we always hear that entities want blood, their demons
Yes.
want blood. They
Anyone that asks you to sign anything in blood, you should be questioning that.
yeah.
And this Anna von Reitz person, this character that is spearheading the truth movement for the legal versus lawful side of our existence. She even admitted on her own website that she made a blood oath on an altar inside a Catholic church. I'm like, that's an oath to Satan, which is Saturn. I'm like, you don't do blood oaths for any context if you're going to be working with the light. And number one, always remember that Satan is a lord of contracts. How many contracts are we agreeing to even use this technology? Terms and agreements are always changing. They're forever in a state of flux.
Yeah, and you ever notice that, like, and when like some of these companies give you terms of agreement, they're like, we updated our terms of service.
Yes.
It's like pages and pages and paragraphs of like, you can't even read it. I'm just like, what the fuck? Oh, excuse my language. I'm like, what? I'm like, how is anybody supposed to even go through this? You know what I mean?
Well,
It's like,
I am going to put this suggestion out there because the light supersedes all things of darkness, that you can negate all of these contracts with your voice, which is light. And through your intentions, you can write your own thing, your own statement that says, upon my exit from this experience, I declare that all contracts, whether consensual or, tacit agreements, everything, whether spoken or implied, are now null and void, canceled. Do not, do not pass go. I've already done this, and I burnt it in the fire to put it into the spiritual realm. And I can do it again and again and again because I put it through all space and time throughout my existence, present, past, and future. All these timelines, I basically put that into the etheric realm. When you burn something with fire, fire is the spirit realm. And that's the thing to know is like, I heard from Native American practices that you can speak to your ancestors through fire. And it reminds me of in Harry Potter how they use flu powder and all this other stuff, and they can talk to each other through the fire. I'm like, that's real interesting now, isn't it? They're putting it in our face in Harry Potter.
yeah. Well, it's all predictive programming, right?
Well, no. That again is a form of disclosure by the fallen angels, which are dark light practitioners. They
Yeah.
work with shadows, they work with overlays, you know? So just know that all these movies, you can go back and start watching them and start getting truth in all of them, and especially things like Venom, the movie Venom. The guy acquires all these superhero powers from a demon who is possessing him.
Yeah.
And they even tell you how to get rid of the demon, to get him off of somebody. A bell rings. They ring a big old bell from the church, and it makes venom separate from the body of the host, you know? So I'm just saying, like, they're telling us everything. Frequency is everything. And, in spiritual practices, you can use salt as a barrier around your house, around your bed, whatever. I've even thought of creating salt rings, like a fabric that you can turn into a ring that you can put underneath your bed and have as a sort of barrier from spiritual entities that might be trying to come and attack you at night.
Oh yeah, because that's where they portal up from. It's that's in my case. They use the underneath the bed as a portal.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's how it works. Even things that are in a 2D format become a 3D in a plane of existence we cannot see. This through this sacred geometries of sound. Sound is everywhere. So when you create these sacred geometry shapes, they're creating basically a light wave, which is sound. You can't hear it. It's not audible to our ears, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So what is it doing? It's creating a sphere. If you create a circle, you're creating a sphere. That's why when they create symbols and seals on the floor to summon entities, they always seal it with a circle because the circle is going to enclose them in a dome, and it's going to go under them and over them. And the entities cannot enter that energy field. And it's usually made with salt. And they do it in clockwise and counterclockwise designs. That's with if you're going to be doing pendulums and things of that nature, it's all in there. The reasons why they do things in certain ways. So there's banishing and there's summoning. And so we just need to use these tools for ourselves to kind of thwart some of the stuff that's coming at us from all angles. And
Yeah.
another thing you can do, and this is a suggestion. I bought some sunglasses that have colored lenses, and I bought an entire rainbow of different colors. The orange sunglasses are going to give you an orange light spectrum in your eyes that's going to negate the blue light that comes through from the headlights of cars. I don't know how disruptive that is to you, but I can't stand those lights. And
Yeah.
then also the lights that we have in our homes, if you don't have incandescent, you're going to have these lights that are emitting that blue frequency again. And you can wear the red or orange lenses, even yellow will turn that blue to green. So learning color theory is important because you're going to want to change the colors of your clothes. Number one, excuse me, change the color of your clothes. You can change the tint on your car. You can change, the lenses for your eyes. There's all kinds of different things. We are going to need to know that all of these frequencies around us, like analyzing them, take them into account, figure out which ones are going to be of a benefit that can negate the fields of energy that are being tossed at us right now, like from all angles. They're spraying the skies, they're poisoning the waters, they're poisoning the food supply, feeding us poisons. We,
Absolutely.
we're
And
poisoning the water.
one thing I wanted to ask you real quick. I'm sorry. Michelle just brought it up in the chat because she's pretty informed as well. My friend, she comes on my show too. She said about you the same thing that you said to me when we were on the phone the other day. You said that the and I brought this up earlier that the pink salt is the giant's blood. Can you go into that? How you found that out real quick, like before we can finish up? It's interesting.
Yes. Well, again, I would say that Roger Spur sort of opened my eyes to the grander scope of how large the beings were, the Titans, back in some other alternate timeline. But the salt, I started investigating the this whole notion of this salt that just came about more recently, because how long has Himalayan salt been on the shelves inside the stores? Not very long, right? I
Yeah.
investigated it and found that not only is it not in the Himalayas, it's actually mined from some place that's west of the Himalayas. But they decided for marketing purposes to label it as Himalayan salt. Now, if you start looking at some of those cavernous areas, they have these caves and it's like literally everywhere. And not only does it look like the flesh of what would be a living being, but when you realize in alchemy that we are made of salt, there's three primes in alchemy. It's sulfur, salt, and mercury. Those are the three base principles that found all life. Like it's the foundation for life and living things. And then you get into some other principles: air, fire, water, earth. Those are all inside of us as well. But salt is one of the main ones because it amplifies the electrical current that is inside of our bodies. Now, there was some other stuff that I found along with that Himalayan salt, but it dawned on me. I mean, it hit me like, a lot of these revelations will just go smack right in my brain. And I'm like, oh my God, it is giants. It's the flesh of giants. I mean, I've been pondering over the Dead Sea. Why is it just a big salt lake, that you could basically swim across the whole thing because you do nothing but float.
Yeah, I heard you float. Yeah, I heard you when you go in it, you just float the whole time.
It is so weird because there's nothing living in it. There's no living thing inside. There's no fish, there's no algae, there's none of those things. It is pure salt and it is so thick and buoyant that you float. You dive down and you bob back up like a cork.
Do
It's
they go? That's in Israel, right?
I went to Jordan because I
Okay,
wanted
so
to
part of it's in Jordan as well.
yes.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. I thought it was just in Israel. Like.
No, it's because I went to Jordan back in 2018. I went to Jordan. I was like, I'm just going to take this trip. I can't find anybody to travel with me. I'm just going to go. And I went to the Dead Sea and I went to the land of giants, which was basically the Petra. Petra has those buildings that are carved in what they call a riverbed. And those doorways are about 25 feet high, 25 to 30 feet high. And I'm like, there's no way that was a human. There's no way. Because people look so small in the doorway. And so obviously it was some sort of village for giants. Because
Wow.
all of the different outlets there had huge doorways.
Like when you mentioned about the Phoenicians earlier, I don't know if you know this, but I'm half Lebanese. Like I was raised like Christian Lebanese, but like, do you think we like most Lebanese were descendants of the Phoenicians, or like, or what do you? Because and were they all bad?
No, I see. That's the whole thing. Like, we have donned and accepted these labels that we place on ourselves.
Yeah,
And I think that's a huge mistake because all that does is divide us.
yeah,
When our hearts and our fields are basically channeling the same energies, we're basically one entity that's operating on all these different levels. It's like, think of a world where there's all these different hands and they're basically all one collective.
yeah,
No, I think what there is there is a dark deceptive force that dons these labels. Like they'll infiltrate a tribe, like the Freemasons, for example. They'll infiltrate the tribe, don that cloak of that name, and then start dictating and pulling strings from inside
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
And that's what I think they do throughout time. And I think that's all they do. Because these people that call themselves the Rothschilds, for example,
Yeah.
well, once upon a
They're
time,
supposedly Khazarians, which are then they're
yes.
not even Jewish. They're like they're like give Jewish people a bad name. They're actually like, yeah, Khazarians, you know?
And it's just like the Canaanites became Phoenicians who became Hebrews. You see where this is going? This is
Yeah,
basically, and so that's why when they call themselves Jews, I'm like, they're not the original Jews. They're not.
yeah,
Because the J did not exist back in any of those. Like they didn't have J, number one. And if that word was pronounced, it would have been the U's.
yeah. Because there was no J. Just like how
Which,
Jesus, there was no Jesus because like that was a later created term by the
yeah,
Spanish, I believe, right? Because that's like the word Jesus didn't exist back then in his time. It would have been his name was I guess Yeshua ben Yosef or what that's what they say, right? I
well,
don't know if he was even real.
remember they on the buildings, like in Tartaria, they're showing the letter I before the number, like 686, I 686.
Yeah.
The I represented Iusus, Ieusus.
Oh, what that had been his name.
Iusus changed to Jesus. And it was the year of the sun, 682 or whatever. And that's
That is
what
so
they
interesting.
used to do that. They used to put that on all the buildings. Year of the sun, which was represented as an I, and then the year. And then eventually it became a story by the shadows that it was Jesus, the Son of God. And it's like, what? But when it came back around for me was, listening to Jordan Maxwell and how he described it. And I was like, oh my God, that is so practical.
I love Jordan Maxwell. I was a big fan of his work, you
I
know?
know. He basically put my feet on this path of symbolic language and looking at things with a different lens with law. I started down the trail of law and also how words are being used as spell casting.
Yeah.
And you should really just follow the sound. And what is the original etymology of a word? Like right, for example, when somebody just says the word right out in a crowd, do they mean right hand, write with a pen, or write as in a ritual? Well, essentially, I think the oldest version would be RITE
Yeah.
because this is a ritual and we usually use our right hand for writing. So it's a ritual hand. I mean, it's that kind of thing. And so I break down the words. My mind instantly starts breaking down words. Mortgage, the death grip, the mer chant. MER means death. Merchant, mermaid. That's death maid, death chant. I mean, all these things. I'm like, OMG. Why is everything about death? Because it has everything to do with Father Time, which is Saturn, which is Kronos, which is El Elyon, which is the Sandman, ruler of Dreamland. Like all these different names start pouring in on me when I go to these.
That, which is I know we've been going a while, but I just got to ask you this because I think the audience is really like, we have like 65 people watching, and we had to make a new link because we had technical issues. So to still have 65 people watching, and I didn't even really advertise it, that's pretty good. But what do you think's going on in Dreamland? Because I've had people think that, like, or say that like people are or not people, or entities, or reptilians or entities are infiltrating our dreams, or they're infiltrating the dream space. Do you think there's something to that?
I think they can if your field is left open. Like if you're not in alignment with the light, I believe you can be attacked in many different ways.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed from doing the practice, the past life regression practice that I do, and people can contact me for a past life session because I listen. All I know is past life regressions has helped me to connect to higher energies that are wanting to contact me, whether it's my higher self or whatever. I have revelations now more often than ever because I have conversations inwardly, and it helped me tremendously. Hands down, not even trying to sell it as a practice, but hands down, it connected me to something inside of me after doing all these sessions and exchanging with other practitioners. And now I want to help other people also connect with the innermost self of inside of themselves. But so the revelations can come. And what were we just talking about? I'm sorry.
Dreamland. Dreamland.
So Dreamland, you have to learn that based on your alignment. Now, this can come also from the food that you're eating, from any external things, whether it be drinking, doing drugs, doing marijuana, doing mind altering things, ayahuasca too. These things can open up the channels, the different auric energies that act as barricades to block these entities. It can actually open them up and allow them to come through. And this is wearing specific clothes, I mean, different colors. We have to start consciously thinking about the things that we are doing that are allowing other entities into our world, because it's all frequency based. Everything is. And when I do my sessions, I have removed entities from people, and typically they are attached to the sacral chakra area, somewhere around the navel. These people come to me, they have stomach issues, they have digestion issues, they have all these different issues that are associated with their abdomen. I then take them through the session. I do the body scanning. I start communicating with the entities. They're there. They talk to you. It's the strangest thing, but the people will alter their voices and they become someone else, and they start talking as someone else, and they like something that the person has been doing. They are disembodied spirits that will attach themselves at the same place where we come into the world, which is the navel area, which is attached to the sacral chakra. Sacral chakra area, I guess, emanates from the spinal and all that, but I release them. These are disembodied people, basically, because they go to the light. And after the session, they tell me we physically felt, like each person that I see, they say, I physically felt something leave. And I'm like, yes, that was a spirit.
Wow.
A lot of people
Maybe I need to do a past life session with you, seriously, honestly.
I'm telling you, listen, so you can have 100 entities and not know it, or more or less. This is how serious this has become. And this is why I mentioned something about how we are treating our recently deceased. I do encourage people, if you haven't before, please research Tibetan Book of the Dead. They do give you
Yeah.
a ritual that you perform. I did this. Let me just tell you, I did this for my own mother. And let me tell you the consequences. So I knew about Tibetan Book of the Dead, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is very important.
I
Something.
used to own a copy of it. I used to, but I owned it at the very beginning of my awakening, like in like 2013. And like, I always felt like it was making me confront my death. So like, like me, like an idiot, I got rid of it, but I'm ready to I'm going to buy it again. I'm going to,
Well, I'll
but
tell you, it talks about the different things that we're going to see once we get into the
it's,
Bardo.
yeah, the Bardo, right? It talks about the Bardo states,
And
which
it
is like
talks about how
yeah.
you'll see the color fields, and that basically all of it is kind of like an illusion. So you have to recognize that this creation is also emanating from you. Like this whole experience is emanating based on your consciousness. And so when it talks about how you will see the green color and you'll see the blue color and you see all the different colors from the seven gods that are called planets, you'll see each one. And each one, if you desire that, you will go and reincarnate into that sphere of energy. You'll incarnate as an animal if you desire the green. You'll go and incarnate as a god if you desire the yellow or the gold. I mean, all it tells you all these different things, but it tells you that for your loved ones at the moment of death, they actually give you a ritual that you can perform. You basically, excuse me, you basically will envision the person. If you can't be there for the person, like right beside them, speaking to them in their ear, even if they're dead, you have to do this within 3 days of them passing. You have to say, okay, well, I'm going to talk to this person. If they're not physically there, you envision them. So you close your eyes and you envision speaking to them in their right ear. And you sit there and you talk to them and you say, oh, sacred one, or whatever the words are, you are a child of the light. And you have to recognize that the light is you, the white light. You are the white light. The white light is you. You repeat this thing 7 times. It's like a mantra. And you repeat it 7 times. That's one for each energy sphere. And then you just wait. After you've done it, recited the ritual 7 times, you just stop. And
Well,
this,
wait, I got to ask you something. This is confusing because don't they say that the soul trap is the white light and that that's to take us and make us reincarnate? So are you saying we're going to reincarnate no matter what? Or are you saying, or do you think there's a way to get out of here?
well,
Sorry, I didn't mean to make this confusing. Like
no, no, no,
this
no.
is a big thing for me because I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen when I
We
get out of here
all
because I
are.
don't want to come back here.
We're all trying to figure it out. I do not think you're supposed to go towards the darkness. I don't. I just, something inside me says that is not the way. And if you were the one who wanted to entrap all the souls, would you tell them that the fear the white light? I
Absolutely. Yeah,
mean,
and we know that that's a very good point because we know they put out misinformation everywhere
yes,
at every darn and not just that, but they now I'm starting to realize that they have agents in this community, and this isn't paranoia, guys. You got to watch everybody who you talk to because there's agents that will try to trust me, I'm finding out some really low shit. Like, you know what I mean? There's people that like try to befriend you to say they're your friend, but they're really like working against you and they're trying to manipulate you for nefarious reasons. There's people, and yes, that's people in the community. I'm finding out. Like I'm not saying anybody's name. I'm just saying like this is what we're dealing with. There's manipulation at every turn.
yes, yes, there
You have
are.
to be very discerning of who you talk to nowadays.
But that's again, I cannot express enough how much importance alchemy is during this time. It is very important for people to at least become curious of the alchemists of old and all of the things that they were trying to put out as information. It's important to learn symbolic language. It is important to study all of these occult things because in alchemy's gates, you will find the absolute truth. And let me just tell you what I sort of get a sense of. Now, this is my perspective at looking at all of these things from every angle in this existence. I truly believe that through alchemical means of incarnating and disincarnating and coming back and leaving again, that we are being honed and conditioned to be a greater consciousness with a greater power and to eventually become as a planetary god and to become a part of one of them and their energy. And you can either be on the lighter side of that planetary consciousness, or you can be on the darker side of those planetary consciousnesses. And I just feel like we're already that now. Because when you really look at the zodiac, which is part of alchemy, you get that there's light and dark in all of this, and they're also inside of us. We are the planetary bodies, but there is something about this existence that is kind of like a school. And whether we like it or not, we are going to be coming back here. And it depends on what level you are, which tier you are in your journey. Now, I do also sense that Yggdrasil, which is the Norse cosmology of this world, is very important to sort of grasp a concept of, because I believe that it's telling us about this world and about the different areas of the world where you can also incarnate as different forms. I just think that when we don't have a material body in whatever form we choose, whether we choose an animal or we choose a vegetable or whatever, I feel like since we're amorphous and we don't have form and we don't have a sex, based on our experiences, we take those frequencies that manifest as DNA in whatever incarnated form. We'll also take those experiences with us into the ether, and it expands that particular egregore of consciousness, whatever it may be, but we have to achieve the light. That's what in light, in mint means. So it's all about obtaining and acquiring the light, just like what Thoth explains in the Emerald Tablets. Is like the journey is long, is so long to follow the path to the light. So even though we see the suffering and we come here to suffer, it's only temporary. And at the end of it all, when you're outside of the body, none of that matters. None of this experience matters anymore. You hear about the near-death experiences where people come back and they're like, "Oh my God, it felt so great. I felt wonderful." And none of this mattered. I didn't want to come back, but I did. I mean, I've listened to story after story after story and about how the other side is so much more wonderful than this. But apparently we choose to come here, even though we can't remember that, because that's part of the veil of coming into Saturn's energy, is that you're going to forget because we're being magnetized into this density and not everything can come. But apparently, if we start studying what the Far East is teaching, which is what they're teaching right now, they're teaching people about how to tap into those psychic abilities and pulling them in. Apparently, what you have to achieve is to be able to focus long enough on silencing the mind, entering into that alternate realm, and pulling in those abilities through meditation. This is why these monks are practicing for years and years and years. And most of these key masters that I've been studying, watching their videos and stuff, they say it takes them 20 years to develop their key enough to be able to manifest it into reality. And I think that's what they're doing, is they're learning these different levels of mind through meditative practices to pull it in and then to hone the skills and use them outwardly. Because first, manifestation comes from mind, then it has to be brought into action, and then poured into the material. And that's how it is all done. Even in our daily practices, this is the same way things are done. You pull an idea into your head, it becomes an action that you take, like you want to create a business, and then it starts to proliferate in your life. And it's pretty much everything.
Wow.
The Mahatma letters, though, I do encourage people to look at the Mahatma letters that is associated with Helena Blavatsky and the Tibetan monk master that she was actually in touch with, and look at how she was able to receive those letters. And it was said too that she was able to manifest bouquets of flowers and things. And I'm like, oh my God, I would love to sit around there and just go, poof, I've got some new flowers. Look at this. You know, something so simple. I'm not looking to use magic for evil, but you know, manifestation is real. Like I've always known this somehow. We can manifest through our thoughts, through the etheric principle, but we have to be able to focus and learn how to channel the energy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what they're calling Planet X, though. Do you know that on NASA's website, I did this whole expose on Planet X once upon a time, researching on NASA's website about Planet X. And it said that Planet X is just a hypothetical thing right now, and that it has not yet been recognized. And that's when I started diving into all the words and associations with X, and I found that in the Greek alphabet, X is ki, Ki, and that X in Chinese is 10, which is set or something like that. Anyway, sap, I think. And then that's the whole reset, by the way. The number 10 is also Saturn. It's ones and zeros, right? And so if you overlay the two, it becomes like Saturn. And I was doing, oh my gosh, it's all about Saturn. It's about the Great Reset. It's about Planet X, which is key energy. And I'm like, oh my God, Earth, they're going to call it Planet X at some point. They're like, Planet X has arrived because all of these children and all of these people, they're teaching remote viewing at the institute in Atlanta. What's it called? It's the
Robert
Farsight
Moreau
Institute.
Institute. Oh, the Farsight Institute. Yeah,
Farsight
Courtney
Institute
Brown.
in
Yeah, I like him.
Atlanta. They have 3 remote viewers that will teach you remote viewing, and then of course,
I met them actually. I met them in person. I met Inti Sum. I met Yemi.
okay,
Yeah, because they were at the Full Disclosure Now conference last year. I didn't meet Courtney, but he sent the girls. Like, you know,
yeah,
like they're really cool. Like like they're really cool. Like they're really. I mean, they're just like nicest girls in the world. You know, they're
yeah.
really awesome. Yeah.
Well, I heard this woman on Instagram. She said that she was teaching herself how to be able to see with her eyes closed by staring at a window with light that comes in, and then closing her eyes and just imagining the light coming from within herself. She said she did this daily as a practice. She would just stare at the light coming in a window during the day, and she would close her eyes and then see the window in her mind's eye, but then also start thinking that the light is coming from within her. And she started being able to see through her closed eyelids. So,
Wow.
I mean, these are the things that children are able to do now. And some of these adults, they're blindfolding them and then having them go through an obstacle course on a bike or whatever and read and see through people's bodies. And I mean, it's like a remote viewing type of thing. So,
Yeah.
key is coming. Key activation. We have to. It's going to be metaphysical versus the metaverse. You know, and that's why they want to lock us down. They don't
Yeah.
want us running around here using our activated energies.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've been going over 2 hours. This was
Oh,
awesome, Ellen. I'd love to have you again on soon because we it seems like we can go on and talk forever. Like this is
oh, I know,
and
right?
I think people really love this. You know, I think people really like
Listen,
this. You know.
we got to talk about these things. We're entering the age of Aquarius. What is Aquarius? Aquarius is about all these ideas, is about all these concepts and all the weird things in the world coming into our actual reality. So that's me. I'm double Aquarius with a Libra moon, and I'm out here like just trying to figure out like, hey, y'all better get ready because things are about to get really weird.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah. Do you want to tell people how they can contact you? And yeah, this was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can contact me. My email is wellenbe, WELLENBE at yahoo.com. And my website is wellenbe.com and ellensart.com. And if anybody wants to contact me to do an interview for some of these weird wild woo things, and especially cryptids, I love talking about cryptids and whatever, anything weird and interesting, we can talk about it all day long.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and I'll see everybody. Oh, I don't know if I have a show tomorrow, but